The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Guess what? The Vancouver Canucks scratch Andrei Kuzmenko, and you know what? They score one goal against the St. Louis Blues. Enough is enough. It's time to free Kuzmenko.
Oh, man, this guy's mic cut off. That's how angry he is right now, man. For real. Anyways, Locked On Canucks, we're talking about Kuzmenko. We're talking about the reason why Kuzmenko is getting treated the way he's getting treated. It's pretty obvious. It's right in front of us. These aren't the Vancouver Canucks. It's the Vancouver Penguins. Anyways, let's run the episode. Enjoy the show. Boom, bam.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, man, I got too fired up there that I knocked the wire out of my mic. But what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer over at Daily Hive Vancouver, and your co-host here at Locked On Canucks. Before we dive into the episode, we got to thank you. Yes, you tuning in right now for tuning into Locked On Canucks. It is your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe or follow us for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Before we get started, I also got to shout out Sleeper, okay? Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Coming up on today's episode of Locked On Canucks, enough with the healthy scratches, okay? Andrei Kuzmenko, he don't deserve it. We got to talk about the real reason why the Canucks are scratching Kuzmenko, because something fishy is going on here. And this doesn't feel like it's going to have a boring ending. So we'll get into Kuzmenko versus Tocchet, the real reason he's being scratched, and why we think he should be back.
Who's winning that fist fight? Who's winning that fist fight? Tocchet or Kuzmenko? My money's on Kuzmenko. Anger, man. It does a lot of things.
My money's probably on Tocchet with that one.
Man, oh, man. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, had to cut you off because, man, I'm emotional. But I'm also thorough. I'm also smart. I went on a stroll already, wandering and wandering. Went to Nemesis Cafe, had myself. I think I had the newest drink on the menu for real. I don't even know what it's called. Anywho, it made me think. It made me think about the real reason why Kuzmenko is being scratched and why this team is okay with doing so. You know what? I lied to you. I thought of two reasons, and I'm excited to share them with you. Now, Beggsy, on a scale of 1 to 10, because I feel as if I'm not going to say you're pro Linus Karlsson, but you definitely didn't have a problem with him being favored / just, being around the starting roster prior to yesterday's game. You're a bit nicer to Karlsson than I was. Do you get it though now? After seeing yesterday's game, you don't need Linus Karlsson and Nils Åman both playing on your roster. That's just the truth.
No, and I think Linus Karlsson was, definitely part of the reason why the Blues scored that 2-1 goal, right? Him and Nils Höglander kind of chased the same ground that play. Robert Thomas gets opened up and scores what ends up being the game-winning goal. And yeah, it probably was too nice to Linus Karlsson yesterday because look.
Oh, now we got Trevor lagging here, so I'm going to take over, okay? Obviously, we don't need Linus Karlsson, man. Obviously. It don't make any sense. This team don't need many of those guys on the same team. Again, Nils Åman and him.
I think the Canucks can afford to do it because.
Oh, Beggsy, you're lagging the whole time, man. We're going to take a little break here. You're listening to Locked On Canucks. Okay, you're back on Locked On Canucks. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I don't know what Trevor's going to do here, okay? Maybe it was meant to be that this was all happening on today's episode because, man, oh man, I'm the one that's fiery. Trevor Beggs is the one that's safe. Again, he's pro Linus Karlsson. I'm pretty sure this guy ordered the jersey prior to yesterday's game. And here I am, not like crying, not getting overly emotional, but just confused. And also at the end of it, feeling okay that the Canucks lost and only scored 1 goal. Why? Because I feel as if Tocchet, not Kuzmenko, got taught a lesson yesterday. Do you feel as if maybe Tocchet learned something too?
I mean, I sure as hell hope so, because I thought the Elias Pettersson line was the quietest line for the Canucks last night. I don't ever want to see Sam Lafferty be playing on that top line again. Just watching the game, I had to listen to it for the first little bit in the car. But you know what? It's enough. It's enough. I know you're trying to teach Kuzmenko a lesson, But you and I watch the games. You listening right here, you watch the games. Has Kuzmenko been that bad that he deserves to be healthy scratched over guys like not just Linus Karlsson, but how about Niels Amon? How about even Sam Lafferty? I get that Sam Lafferty's got a 200-foot game, but you're talking about a guy Kuzmenko who, to me, is still probably a top 10 player on the Canucks this season, right? It doesn't feel like it based on what's happened, but I'm looking at things like, the top average game score, right? Which takes into account both offensive production and your defensive performance. Andrei Kuzmenko was the 10th best average game score among all Canucks skaters this season. It's higher than Nils Höglander. It's higher than, Nils Amon. It's higher than Ian Cole, Zadorov, DiGiuseppe. Again, I think Andrei Kuzmenko is still probably a top 10 player on this team. I don't agree with the healthy scratches. I think enough is enough. Now, the real reasons he's being scratched, you look at the contract and when it was signed last year, and I think Alvin was, signing a player that he'd recruited, that he'd really liked, and a guy that had performed well last season.
Really well, not just well, bro. This guy was
Kuzmenko had not played under Tocchet.
No, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm getting emotional again. He didn't do just well. He did really well. You know what I'm saying? Put the shooting percentage aside. I know he scored a lot of tap-ins, but the guy scored 39 times in his first year in the NHL. That is damn near impossible. That's just the truth. Russia, Europe to the NHL, the transition is hard. You're not supposed to score 39 goals right away. He deserved that contract, and I get that Tocchet wasn't there when Kuzmenko was doing most of his damage, or maybe, he wasn't there when the deal was most likely done. But I don't feel as if it's not enough of a reason to look at Linus Karlsson and be like, you know what? Let's give you a chance. Let's give you more of a look. But I was thinking about this, okay? Think about this. Tocchet, obviously in Pittsburgh. Alvin in Pittsburgh. Rutherford in Pittsburgh. Look at Crosby's wingers. Look at Malkin's wingers. Look at the Cups. I know it was back in the day, but maybe they're bringing some of that philosophy into the fold, right? They want 2 really good centers, an elite defenseman, maybe 2, a really good goaltender, and then everyone else who can play a smart, reliable game. And if you're a winger, you get in on the forecheck, and we'll get this job done. And then you look at that Teddy Bluger line. It kind of does remind you of that HBK line, just a bit, just based on their effectiveness and how much offense they're producing. So I don't know if we should call this the penguin effect, but I think that has a lot to do with Kuzmenko not being favored by this regime right now.
Yeah, I mean, your point about, the Pittsburgh Penguins and how it compares or how it might translate to the Canucks right now. Look, I know guys like Brian Rust and Jay Gensel, they get it on the forecheck and whatnot, but you're almost like, is Sam Lafferty the next Brian Rust? Is Pius Suter the next Jay Gensel? I don't think so, right? Like, those guys were different. I know they were homegrown, later round draft picks and all that stuff, but, Sam Lafferty and Pius Suter are not the next Brian Rust and Jay Gensel. Andrei Kuzmenko has the skill to potentially be like a Jay Gensel. And again, I know the Canucks want to teach Kuzmenko a lesson, but you're scratching this guy after. I thought the Pettersson line was one of the best lines in Ottawa. Granted, the team played for 20 minutes and then took the rest of the night off. But even over his last handful of games, I think the guy has played well in limited minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But look at his ice time, right? Like, his ice time is among the lowest in all Canucks. I know he's getting some power play time, but at even strength over his past 10 games, the guy has played more than 10 minutes 3 times. So, I mean, I don't get this obsession with scratching Kuzmenko. I'm really curious what that talk was between Kuzmenko and Tocchet a couple of months back. I know Tocchet's kind of flexed his muscle. It almost seems like Tocchet's saying, without saying it to the media, you're not listening to me. You're not taking this in. But I think it's dismissing the fact that Andrei Kuzmenko is still one of the most creative and productive offensive players on this team. I know he's not on pace to score 39 goals this year, but no, he's got 8 goals and 19 points in 32 games. Like, that's still a top 6 pace. And you're scratching this guy for Linus Karlsson. I should have been more fired up yesterday, man. But
you should have, man. But you're pro Linus Karlsson. What was up with you yesterday, man? I couldn't believe your hockey tutelage.
I honestly thought they were going to scratch. I thought that they were going to scratch Nils Höglander. I didn't think they were going to scratch Andrei Kuzmenko.
And even so, if they did so, like, why? Oh, like, the PDG thing made a little bit of sense, right? Because he was in the toolkit and he had some success in the past. But for Karlsson, I just don't really get it at all. And bro, we got to bring up this, man. Well, a couple things. Can we give a little disclaimer? I trust Rick Tocchet. I really do. The benefit of the doubt, it's his. He's done the most. The philosophy, the culture change. I mean, you look at what's happened over the last 20 games with the top tier players on this team. It's safe to say that this has now been a complete team effort up until this point. Because in the beginning, it's like, oh, star power and whatnot. Tocchet had a thing to do with it. But now you look at it and look at Pia Suter, look at Noah Juleson, look at Teddy Bluger, Joshua Garland. Bro, the depth, the coaching, the structure, it's the reason why the Canucks have stayed well above 500 over the last 20 games. So Tocchet has everything to do with this. And, he's staking his claim and doing his thing. But man, oh man, your team scored 5 goals in the first period of a game and was looking amazing. And I know in the last 40 minutes of the game, they look bored. Well, that's human psyche. It is what it is. 5-0 is not 2-0. It's not 3-0. It's 5-0. It's kind of hard to just keeping it on, And I feel as if everyone on that team after a 6-3 victory deserved to just stay in the lineup. But for whatever reason, Linus Karlsson was needed for Tocchet against St. Louis. That I feel as if he was just not even trying to send a message. I don't know, man. Like that, a move like that is, I feel like that could be detrimental, man, because Kuzmenko's spoken in the past, like, it's all good. Don't worry. I'm learning the game. I'm committed to this team. I just want to see us win. I'll get better. But I don't know, something like that could be, I wouldn't say dangerous, but it could be the start of the break. And yeah, at the end of the day, the Vancouver Canucks need Andrei Kuzmenko or a player like Kuzmenko to win. Win what? Not like regular season games, but I'm talking about being dynamic and being a bit more favorable in the playoffs. Yeah, he doesn't play that, I don't know, what the Pia Suter game or the Dakota Joshua game, but there is a level of dynamic energy there, a lot of creativeness. And at the end of the day, the Vancouver Canucks are still, quote unquote, the Vancouver Canucks. You got to let the players, the star powers of these individuals write the narrative. Don't get in the way. And I think Kuzmenko deserves a little bit of that power because the guy scored 39 goals. And before he scored 39 goals, there's a reason why this guy was so coveted leaving the KHL. Guy's really good at hockey. And maybe this guy needs a little bit of a runway, a longer leash, so he can start getting his confidence back because you're talking to a guy that he's not smiling right now. You know what I'm saying? He's not smiling right now. The Canucks are at the top. I feel as if they need that playful energy, and I'm curious to see what this lineup looks like when Kuzmenko is back. It seems more fun. They're going to be a bit more offensive. Now, I've heard some people in the comments talk about Tocchet's culture and how he wants his team to play, and he's really wiring this team to be playoff bound. I've also heard some people talk about Arizona. Like, this is what he did in Arizona. This is what he didn't do this in Arizona, okay? He wasn't winning at 700 hockey. You know what I'm saying? It's different. But yeah, just free Kuzmenko. That's all I got.
Free Kuzmenko. And, that decision last night, in my mind, cost the Canucks the game, right?
Ooh.
You put in Linus Karlsson. He's on the ice for the St. Louis game-winning goal. You scratch Kuzmenko. The Pettersson line looks terrible. You get nothing from your top 6. And it's just like, I get the Canucks are high in the standings. I get that Tocchet wants to teach Kuzmenko how to forecheck, how to backcheck. But enough is enough. He's one of the most talented offensive players on this team. You need to get him in the lineup. I think the last point I wanted to make is that I do wonder if something bigger is kind of cooking for the Canucks, right? I kind of mentioned a few minutes back that, the Canucks did sign Kuzmenko to that deal right after Tocchet came to town. Maybe they come to the realization that they want a different look in their top 6. Maybe they're thinking of trading Kuzmenko, right? So that's all I got to say. We'll kind of talk about that more maybe on another episode, what a Kuzmenko trade might look like, what other top 6 guys. Because if you trade Kuzmenko out, I think you're just trying to create cap room to bring another top 6 guy in.
Really? But how do you bring that guy in with it just being a Kuzmenko 4 type of trade? Like, I feel like they're going to throw something in because we're talking about Vancouver. This is mainstream hockey. Everyone knows that Kuzi's been struggling this year.
Like, I'm talking Kuzmenko out for something, the cap space, and then you bring another guy in. I don't agree with that. I don't think the Canucks should do that, but I'm starting to wonder if that's the road the Canucks might go down.
Bro, just give Kuzi 3 games at the top line. Like, come on. Let's just get that momentum going again. It's possible, man. Look at that mixtape from last year again, Kuzi, Pettersson. It was damn near beautiful. It really was. Those guys were highly effective, and they haven't unlocked that this year. And look at them in the standings. You know what's there, and if they do unlock that, that's how this team takes another step. Kuzi is so important. That being said, we brought up Lekkerimaki. maybe life can begin without Kuzmenko sooner than we think, aka before that contract ends, because of guys like Podkolzin, Lekkerimaki, and yeah, in your mind, somebody else that they're thinking of bringing in. Did Trevor lag there? You're listening to Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That right there is Trevor Beggs, experiencing some technical difficulties now. These things happen, man. It's rainy. Kuzmenko's not playing. Vancouver's not feeling the same way. We're going to run to an ad. And on the other side, we're going to talk more about Jonathan Lekkerimaki winning the MVP of that World Junior Tournament, also winning a silver medal. But to be honest, the MVP is way bigger than a gold medal. If you're looking at this from a Vancouver Canucks fan, come on. It's not about Team Sweden. It's about your Vancouver Canucks. Anyways, again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks.
The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so damn easy to use, and there's so many different ways to bet, like with live same-game parlays, find bets in the new Explore tab, make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and more. You know what? I'm still liking my Seahawks this weekend, and I'm betting on the Bears as well, because go Seahawks go. F those Packers. Let's go, baby. And I'm going to make sure I do it all on FanDuel. Make sure you do the same as well. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Boom, bam. Are you still scared of the Seahawks? Oh, this guy did not want to talk about the Seahawks, man. It's okay. Let's talk about the Seahawks a bit, okay? Do you believe in your Seahawks?
I don't think they're going to make the playoff. I just think that, is it really going to happen 2 years in a row where the Seahawks win, the Packers lose, and the Seahawks make the playoffs? I don't think so. I think the Seahawks, I think they could make the playoffs. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a mediocre operation right now. They can't stop the run. They can't defend.
I like the energy,
Geno
man.
Smith is good, but he has his moments, man. He has bad moments. So.
I like the energy, man. You are not loyal right now, and it's in favor of the Green Bay Packers. Anyways, let's get back to Locked On Canucks. Okay, you're back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That right there is Trevor Beggs, who's using internet from 2014 or 2008. Thank you for sticking around. During these technical difficulties, man, oh man, the Vancouver Canucks, they matter so much. Home of the West Coast bias is not only here, but it's also in that building. I have to say that because, again, I feel like for whatever reason, there are high stressful moments as a Vancouver Canucks fan happening right now, and that's kind of confusing because look at the standings, and it's not that serious. Believe in this team, send your energy towards them, and be positive, man. They know what they're doing, and I think they're going to figure this Kuzmenko thing out, whether it be via trade or what I think they should do, and that's just figure it out with this guy because he's different. I know the data is not always so friendly to Kuzmenko. I know Trevor brought up some friendly stats, but there's also the other end of the spectrum saying things like Lafferty's been a better player with Pettersson this season. Again, that's what the data's saying. And here's the thing about Kuzmenko, okay? He could do things in instances, right? And I feel as if instances, quick moments, quick strike, doing things as an individual don't always pick up on the data. There's no calculation for that. The magician that Kuzmenko is doesn't, again, do things all the time that is in favor of the data.
Here's one of the gripes I'll bring up with that. I saw Durant's tweeted out trying to be, I don't know, maybe it was pro Lafferty, anti Kuzmenko. I think the stat was something like the Kuzmenko, Pettersson, Mikheyev line has been on the ice for 15 goals, 4 and 13 goals against, whereas Lafferty, Pettersson, Mikheyev have been on the ice for 6 goals, 4 and 1 goal against. Here's the thing, though, on a per minute basis, Andrei Kuzmenko with Elias Pettersson, that line is scoring more than Sam Lafferty, Elias Pettersson, and Ilya Mikheyev. So, yeah, I get that their goal for differential isn't as great, but this is the first line. You need this line to create offense.
Yeah,
the Pettersson line is not going out there on a nightly basis and facing off against the other team's best lines. This line needs to create offense. They need to do so at even strength, and they've done it. They've done it so far this season. I know the shooting percentages are a bit high, but I think they're going to be a bit higher than average. They might regress a bit, but they're going to be a bit higher than average because Elias Pettersson and Andrei Kuzmenko are creative offensive players. And I just think, again, you start stifling that creativity, you're going to have some problems.
Ooh, Trevor, that's what I like, okay? You know, sometimes I think about you and I'm like, yo, why do I think Trevor is like one of my favorite hockey podcasters out there? Because he is the perfect balance of, okay, cool, the data, whatnot. Okay, this is what this is saying, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the data. You're taking the eye test to the same extent, if not actually more, which is the way you should be looking at things. Because again, sports, man, sports, hockey, it's a quick game. And sometimes the quick things, they don't show up in the textbook. Even the computer nerds can't even pick up on that stuff. Why? Because they're not the hockey players. They can't do it. They can't do it like Kuzi can. Anyways, Jonathan Lekkerimaki, the guy who could be replacing Kuzmenko sooner than we think, right? Next year. Who knows? 7 goals. They lose 5-2 to the USA. And who cares? Because the MVP of the tournament is, again, way more important than a gold medal. We're talking about the World Junior Hockey Championships, and this is the Canucks podcast. We have that guy. We had the best player in the tournament, quote unquote. He also was able to do another thing that really, really stood out, and that's keeping things electric. I feel as if most of this guy's goals were, whoa, wow, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. And I know you had to wait 21 minutes for it on this podcast, but that's the real reason the Canucks are scratching Andrei Kuzmenko. It's because Jonathan Lekkerimaki coming up anyways, baby. So you may as well trade this guy and get a little bit of Jonathan Lekkerimaki in the lineup. No, I don't think that's actually the case. But again, Alvin said it. Jonathan Lekkerimaki is likely to come to Abbotsford at the end of this season. That might be a ton of fun, man, because the Abbotsford Canucks are in a playoff position right now. You throw him on that top line. Maybe he's playing right wing alongside Archie Baines on the Abbotsford Canucks top line. Again, super curious to see Lekkerimaki come over here to the AHL. I do think there'll be an adjustment period for him because there was an adjustment period last season for him. But man, oh man, the fact that the Canucks, again, we talked about Kyle 6 months ago, Jonathan Lekkerimaki in the summer, actually, he didn't even crack a top 50 prospects list in the NHL. And now he might be the best U20 player, arguably. Maybe he's not even arguable. He won the MVP of the goddamn World Juniors. He might be one of the best or the best U20 player out there. So, again, super curious to see this guy in the Canucks lineup. And he looks sharp, man. Like you said, all those goals were howitzers for the most part.
Dude, him and Patterson together forever. That sounds kind of beautiful, man. That's just the truth. I like it, man. I was more than impressed, and I'm looking for Harpoon, man. Where's that guy, Harpoon? What did he call this guy? The biggest bust of all time, Lekkerimaki? Jonathan Lekkerimaki? Come on, man. It's a beautiful thing. So I want to ask you who he reminds you of, but I feel as if we didn't watch it that closely, you know? We'd be fooling the people. We'd be lying to people. So I want to talk about something else, okay? Well, what do you think Kuzmenko's favorite hot dog is? It's Friday, man. No, straight up, man. He's been eating a lot of hot dogs lately. For sure.
I'm thinking like a Japa dog of some kind.
Ooh,
Maybe
so
I think Kuzmenko's a bit different, man. He may be one of those guys that gets
Cheese Whiz all over his hot dog.
Whoa,
He seems like one of those
guys.
guys.
You have those Japa dogs, like the little seaweed on it, and like that white sauce. Can't remember what it is.
That white sauce,
like a very different hot dog, you know.
White sauce.
You know what I'm talking about.
I'm surprised that you didn't. Again, I didn't ask you what your favorite hot dog was, but when I was asking, what do you think Kuzmenko is? The psychology would tell me, the data would tell me that you would actually just say yours, and you would take me as like a mustard and ketchup type of guy, man. Simple, vanilla.
Come on, you gotta have some hot sauce on there, no, bro.
Dude, you a really Surrey type native. You a true Surrey native because you got that Punjabi spice in you, for real. You like your spice. Hey, speaking of spice, somebody just told me that they think that Archie Baines may be replacing Niels Höglander. Like, what if they could package Höglander and company for a more premier winger at the moment, like, Höglander and a pick, or maybe Höglander and a pick for like a defenseman, and they just bring up Archie Baines?
Yeah, I mean, look, Höglander's got more skill and a higher ceiling than Archie Baines.
Thank
as much as this is Series Canucks show, I don't like saying anybody is better than Archie Baines, but Höglander has more skill than Archie Baines. Now, one reason why Archie Baines might fit better in the Canucks bottom six is because this guy's been a regular penalty killer with the Abbotsford Canucks. So he's already got that in his arsenal. So you never know, man. You never know. It could happen. It's not going to happen before the Canucks face off against the Devils. The Hughes Bowl, 2.0. Let's talk a bit about
Dude,
that.
why didn't
as
you
we
ask
wrap
me about
up the
my
show.
favorite hot dog? Why don't you ask me about
I
my
think you
favorite
said it
hot
was
dog?
mustard and ketchup.
No, I said you look like a mustard and ketchup type of guy, man.
Oh, sorry. That's bad connection on this show,
You
man.
gotta you gotta put cheese on the hot dog, man. I'm that type of guy. I like cheese all over my meat before I put it in my mouth.
Mm. What about onions? How do you feel about onions on the hot
Oh, I
dog?
love onions, man. Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I love onions. Okay, Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs. We're gonna cut to break and then talk about how Quinn Hughes is tired of being the little big bro. Straight up, man. Can you just beat your bro? Hugh, come on, Quinn. Get the win. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks.
Before we wrap up the show, I got to shout out Sleeper. It's almost the halfway point of the season, and Canucks fans, you got a lot of reasons to be happy, unless you're Andrei Kuzmenko, that is, or a fan of Andrei Kuzmenko, or like one of our commenters said in the show here, if you own an Andrei Kuzmenko jersey, maybe you're not loving life, but everyone else in terms of Canucks Nation, they're loving life. The Canucks are doing great, but you could also be doing great by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is my number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Quinn Hughes, Filip Hronek, or Nikita Zadorov will record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Canucks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability.
Okay, we back on Locked On Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. And remember, as JS says, go Canucks go, man. I really want to give that to the people, okay? Keep that energy high. Look at the standings. It's all good. Trust Tocchet. Trust that Kuzmenko in the situation will figure it out, okay? I feel as if that the Canucks, they deserve that. And speaking of deserving things, Rick Tocchet did deserve a 1-goal performance from his team after scratching Kuzmenko for Linus Karlsson. Relax, buddy. Your team scored 5 goals in the first period a couple days ago. Try not to overthink these things, man. And I think somebody was mentioning this. I don't know if this is going to be the case, but somebody was saying that he could see Tocchet maybe taking the fun out of this team, right? And then we have somebody right here talking about how, you win more games when you outscore your opposition 6-1 than you do when you outscore the opposition 15-13. That is why Tocchet is insisting that Kuzi be responsibly defensible. Okay, I read that again. I started reading when I was 24. Okay,
Responsibly defensible.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think you can trust Pius Suter, Garland, Joshua, Bluger, Lafferty, etc. to help set the tone. Then you got Miller and Pettersson. They're not the worst defensive centers. They're way above average. McKay's up there too. Brock Besser's been a two-way force this season. That's a lot of players buying in. I know you want Kuzi to buy into, and he will, but I don't think, again, you make an example of him for Linus Karlsson. If it's for PDG, I somewhat get it, but doing something like that is too scary and just irrational, man. Relax. Let Kuzmenko find his creativity and help this team out that, again, is doing good in the standings, but it may scare you to see how many times this team has put up over 30 shots in a game this season. 5-on-5 offense, and the power play, that ish needs to improve ASAP.
Yeah, look, I'm going to make a prediction that Andrei Kuzmenko comes back into the lineup on Saturday. I want to say that Rick Tocchet has realized his mistake that he made on Thursday. And again, shout out to Carlos. Appreciate everyone who comments and tunes into the show. The problem with that notion, again, like you said, outscoring your opponent 6-1, you're going to win more games that way than 15-13. Again, you got to look at it in the nutshell of the first line. The first line needs to produce offense. The first line, again, still outscoring the opposition at even strength. And look, I think you got to get the most out of your first line to produce offense. Again, if they're like a line like JT Miller, where they're matching up against the opposition's best lines on a nightly basis, then that's a bit of a different story. But that first line with Pettersson, Mikheyev, and whatever winger is up there, they need to score some goals. They need to create offense. And I think they've been doing that with Kuzmenko. And also that kind of 15-4-13 gangs, that's over the whole season, okay? I think you got to give Kuzmenko a bit of leash on that line.
You do.
With maybe the new lessons he's learned under Tocchet as well. Burying this guy in the press box, burying him on the fourth line doesn't make any sense. Give him some leash with Pettersson. And if, over a handful of games, he keeps crapping the bed and not living up to Tocchet's ideology of him, then that's a different story. But at least give him a run back with Pettersson and
Yeah, dude. And give him a runway to practice the things you're trying to teach him. You got what I'm saying? Like, let this guy find his confidence. Maybe he'll listen more. Again, big player in the KHL. Last year, he proved that he's dynamic as well. This guy's a really good hockey player, and you don't get rid of really good hockey players. Again, the spirit is weird in the city right now. Look at Robert, man. I love Robert. I may name my kid Robert, but he's saying that I hope we are not going to be the Sabres of the league, failing our talent. Bro, look at the standings. Look at the standings. Look at Rutherford and Alvin. It's all good. We're not there. Things have changed. The Canucks are going to be fine. I said it earlier. The Canucks can't win with Andrei Kuzmenko. Big picture, I don't think they can. But right now, in the moment, they're going to figure this thing out. A big reason why, and I know we have to get to the whole Quinn Hughes thing, but I don't know how we go a whole episode without spending a couple minutes talking about that third line again. Bluger, Garland, Joshua, absolutely dominating performance against the St. Louis Blues. They should have had more goals. And I don't know why we're hating on Tocchet a lot, but why are you pulling the goalie with three minutes left in the game? Because
I don't have a problem with that.
Think about this, though. If you're going to do that, you've seen the way this team has played 5-on-5. You've seen the way Miller's line, Pettersson line, they've been kind of boring over this stretch. You've seen how dominating that third line has been. If you do that, if you pull the goalie with 3 minutes left, you're pretty much telling Bluger guys, you guys are done for the game. I know Garland was the extra attacker, but you're telling Bluger's line that when, in my opinion, the team needed one more shift out of those guys, just in case they spark something, because they've been producing almost at a per shift basis, and the Canucks needed a goal.
I honestly thought that line might have gotten out there with Bold. I know Garland got out there, Suter got out there for a bit. But yeah, like you said, when it's 3.5 minutes, it's like, again, maybe you put the third line out there and see what they can do, right? But at the end of the day, that was the last game. I think on Saturday, one reason I like the Canucks to win, of course, Locked On Canucks, baby, show the West Coast buys. Of course, I think the Canucks are going to win, even though they've lost 15 of the last 16 games against this New Jersey Devils team for some godforsaken reason. But again, look, New Jersey's going to be playing on the second night of back-to-backs. That's not always something you get when you're on the road playing someone out east, right? So the Devils are playing the Blackhawks tonight on home ice, and they just came back from a road game against Washington on Wednesday as well. So it'll be their third game on 4 nights. It'll be the second night of a back-to-back. I think this is the correct time to finally beat the Devils. And I think Quinn Hughes is going to score because he was thirsty as hell to score in that game on December 5th. Both Jack and Quinn, Jack and Luke scored. My apologies. Quinn did not score. He looked like he really wanted to score. I think Quinn is going to be pretty thirsty to score on Saturday night. And I think he's going to do it against some subpar Devils goaltending. And I think the Canucks are going to pick up the W. Let's go, baby.
And maybe Kuzmenko will be a big part of that as well. And
Kuzmenko scoring too.
I want to see... I want to see the stats. How many times has Luke Hughes or Jack Hughes beat Quinn in like ping pong and stuff? You know what I'm saying? Like, has Quinn always been dominated by his brother? I know he's the older guy, but the other two are super talented, and Jack is really talented. Straight up. Anyways, Locked On Canucks about to end. I want to say thanks again. You guys stuck through it, through the internet issues. We did our thing. I'll read a couple more comments before we get out of here because, the fans, they deserve it for doing their thing. I showed this one earlier. JS saying, we need to keep believing. Go Canucks, goal. Callum Sandu, thank you. Y'all have a happy Friday, and go Canucks, go. And Callum Sandu again. I like this line. This is the name. The Joshua 3. Boom, bam. One love. Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bhawan, Trevor Beggs. Sign us out.
Hey, thanks again for sticking through that. I don't know. My internet was not having a good time there. I think Tocchet was messing around with it. Didn't want me to say anything bad about him. But shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners, first-time listeners, new subscribers, and all of you who joined us here for the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you, okay? Shout out to you, your families, and your dogs, too. We're nothing without the listeners here on the show. Again, Canucks playing the Devils on Saturday. As we get into next week, we're going to have a lot more road games to talk about. We'll recap the Devils game if something interesting happens, look at the road ahead. And I also want to talk about some potential targets for the Canucks in the top 6 if they're going to make a trade. Whether or not Kuzmenko sticks around or not, I do want to talk about some potential trade targets to boost the top 6, because whether or not you're a fan of Kuzmenko, I mean, whether it's the Miller-Besser line or the Pettersson line, both those lines are cycling through wingers right now. So I think it's pretty clear that this team does want to acquire a top 6 winger. We'll talk about that next week. But for now, I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Cal Bound. Go Canucks, go. And we'll catch you next time here on Locked On Canucks.
Go Canucks, go. West Coast bias. I want to put this on record before we sign out again. Pius Suter played a perfect game. Maybe he is a top 6 player, for real. Like, this guy was by far and away the best Canuck last night. Peace.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.